today is that it is Bruce's birthday every year on Halloween. So if we could gather by this lovely cake, this cake that was done by Just Buns, which is so appropriate for a ballpark, isn't it?
Yes.
And we are going to sing happy birthday to Bruce. Now, Bruce, I don't know, are you revealing what number birthday this is?
I think everybody knows 75.
75. Okay.
I made it.
So, I don't know who's going to, I'll start the singing, but you guys have to really come in with me because believe me, you don't want this to be a solo performance.
True.
Okay. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bruce. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, everybody. Eat the cake. Eat the cake. For the pie. Now's the time to eat because we're going to start the program at 3:30.
That's just like Marie Antoinette. Let him eat cake.
or pumpkin pie.
Or ice cream.
Or ice cream.
All about.
Hello, everybody.
She was our master of the
So I want to thank everybody for being here. I love this. This is our annual event. This is when we honor the volunteers, our supporters, and partners who make Big Train so special. And this is how we raise the money to do our community service initiatives. And today we have birthday cake and pie, and we have Brewster's ice cream, so we are really set. I'm really pleased that Randy Schools is able to be here. Randy was the Big Train booster. Let's hear it for Randy Schools. Randy was the Big Train Booster Club chair for 2 decades. He is an extraordinary model public citizen. Baseball, Chamber of Commerce, NIH, Children's Inn, and on, and Connie Morella says, and on and on and on. He's just extraordinary, and we're honored that he allowed us to use his name in the Randy Schools Big Train Outstanding Service Awards that we present. So we have 6 of them here to do today. Chris Rogers, our former general manager, is not able to be here today, so we're going to honor him at our December 11th show that will be, you won't have to be in the cold that day. That'll be on bigtrain.tv. Randy, do you want to say just a couple of words? We're so grateful you're here.
Just a real pleasure to be here with so many friends and the community, but also friends of the citizens here. You make this place a wonderful, wonderful home to live. So thank you for all that you do coming up to camp.
And thank you, Randy Scholl. All right, sadly the first award we're giving is posthumously to David Povich, the oldest child of Shirley and Ethel Povich. David died in August. He was an accomplished lawyer, a great Washingtonian, an avid baseball fan, and a very generous and active supporter of Big Train baseball here at Povich Field. We're happy that we have many of his family members here today. We're grateful to Connie and their children for recognizing the fact that Big Train does need funds to be able to continue, and so they generously, in lieu of flowers, asked people to make contributions to support Shirley Povich Field. We were so thrilled that we said, I'm going to create a fund to do this so that Mike Riley and Parks don't have to pick up all the maintenance after I can't raise money anymore. And so I was so grateful to the Povich family for this idea. So we created a David Povich improvement fund for Shirley Povich Field. I'm pleased to say we already have $60,000 that we have raised. So we're very excited about that. I'm especially excited because I love to keep this field up to good shape. And the seats on the first base side, they're 20-some years old. They are all fading, and they look kind of shabby. But they're not going to look shabby next summer because we're replacing all 284 because of the Povich Fund, and we're naming the first base grandstand after David Povich. So, let me ask Mark Corman and Andrew Friedson to come up here and join me in this presentation that we're going to make. So these guys are our local county council member and our local delegate, and they're big baseball fans and they're big train fans. And I think we should ask Connie Morella to join in this as well. So Connie, our former member of Congress and ambassador, appropriately named Connie along with Connie Povich here we're going to have, I think we've got a dozen. Can we get all the Povich family to stand up here? We'll get a good photo shot. Connie, please come up and let me present this award. So Andrew and Mark, and Connie, if you have a word to say, but we're going to try to get an hour and a half program in 45 minutes, so not too long. Yes, Andrew, he is learning. We give it to Connie Morella first.
This is a home run. Yeah. Altogether, a wonderful community and a great cause. And I want to also just add my congratulations to our birthday guy, to Bruce Adams. Yeah. He's actually younger than I am, so I salute him and all of you in Randy's school.
Can we get the Povich family to come up?
Well, thank you so much. I'm Andrew Friedson. So honored to be able to represent this amazing area, to follow in the footsteps of great leaders like Bruce Adams. And I heard when I came that they were going to have Brewsters here. And I thought to myself, of course, we're all Bruce Boosters. And I realized it was ice cream. But
this is why nobody ran against him last
year. It's great to be here with I know all of us are card-carrying members. Bruce's fan club, we're so honored to be here with the Povich family, a great family that's done so much, and we're just really excited to be able to celebrate Big Train Baseball. What an asset to have in our community. It's so great to be able to come here with families, to be able to see young baseball players, young kids, being able to enjoy local baseball, some of the best college players from all around the country, and I just feel really privileged to be here. I want to acknowledge Council President Gabe Alvarez is also with us here today, is also a big baseball fan as well, and really appreciate that as well. So let me turn it over to Mark Corman.
Everybody, I'm Mark Corman. I'm the local state delegate for this area, and we're trying to do this in 45 minutes, so I'll just say, play the ball and let's give out some awards.
All right. Thank you very much. So guys, get in this photo. Let everybody look to Joy. Connie, we're giving you the award here. So we need you up here next to Randy. Connie Povich. So this is a print from the wonderful Big Train art that was done by Joseph Craig English, a local artist, and each of our award winners is getting this print. So let's get Connie Morella, get in here, and family members. They're right in here. We're good. All right, here we go. Joy. All right, let's hear it for the Povich family. You're on.
Thank you, Bruce. I'm going to get us back on schedule. I promise I'm going to talk for less than a minute. When I was in 8th grade, I had a homework assignment to find out what it makes a person successful in life. I turned to my grandfather and asked him, and he said a person is successful when measured by the contributions they make to people around them and to society at large. And my father would be so honored to have this little tangible evidence of contributions that he made. He would also be very happy to be doing it in this place. Obviously, family was incredibly important to him, And there aren't too many places in the world that are sacred and hallowed for the Povich family. This is one of them. I just want to thank all of you for the contributions that you all have made to make this place so special. Thank you.
Thank you. We are so honored to be associated with the Povich family. Next up, Brewster's Ice Cream. Bob and Marjorie, come out. Let's hear it for Brewster's Ice Cream. A Big Train fan favorite since 2015. We're not letting them lead. And Bob and Marjorie are often the ones who are scooping the ice cream. So I thought it is a time that they get an award. So we really appreciate your loyalty to Big Train, the terrific ice cream, and let me get the award. Thank you, Brewsters. Look to Joy. She's the official photographer. Here we go.
Thank you.
You got it?
Yep.
All right.
We love Big Train. We really do. We're the family you have.
Okay, let's hear from Brewsters. They are fabulous. Eric Cole. Come up.
Okay, perfect, thanks.
There he is.
Got it.
He was having a Brewster's ice cream cone. So Eric served as the vice president of Bethesda Community Baseball Club when we took it back from BCC Baseball. And I can tell you, I think we maybe wouldn't have been organized to get started even by now, 2 years later, if it wasn't for Eric. Because every time I was like, really? Seriously? We got to do a 501c3 application and we got to go to the IRS. And Eric would say, this can be done. And then he would do it that night and turn it in. So Eric, we thank you for that, for getting us started. And during the pandemic, the guy to turn to create the 36-page COVID plan we needed to get approved, thanks to Gabe and Andrew, who helped us get that through. Eric was the guy who wrote the plan. So Eric, thank you so much for your extraordinary work for Big Train, and he is winning a Randy Scholes Award. So look for joy. We always look for joy. We're good.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Randy. And thank you to everybody that makes Big Train so special. Coach Sal, Coach G, Chris Lopez, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. This is how we do Big Train. I mean, folks step up and they make things happen. This is a largely volunteer organization, so thank you, Eric. Skip Davis, Skip, come up, has been among the Big Train's most generous and loyal supporters from the very beginning. I can tell you that my guy at Lito's Pizza in December of 1998 said, you are going to have a covered picnic pavilion, right? And I'm like, it's not in the budget. He said, you will not have picnics if you do not have a covered picnic pavilion. And so I'm at an event, a winter lunch in December of '98, and I'm telling Skip this, and Skip says, well, I might be able to help you. So we're in the Davis family picnic pavilion, thanks to Skip. When we had to do some upgrades last year, Skip stepped up again. He stepped up in between all the time. We're so grateful. Skip, here's your award. Look to Joy for a photo right here. And here's the money.
Thank you, Bruce. You're a really tough guy to say no to. Over the years, Bruce comes to me and I have to say yes. He's a great leader, and look what he's done. I mean, the facility here, I mean, the team, and the fan experience. I mean, Bruce, you're wonderful. And Randy, thank you so much for all you've done over the years. I would also like to recognize my brother, John. He's here today. He's a trustee of the Floyd E. Davis Family Foundation, and really a lot of the funds have come through the foundation. So it's not just me, it's the whole family. Thank you.
Thank you to the family. Thank you especially Skip. It's been so supportive. Johns Hopkins Community Physicians are next up. Please come up. They've been a long-time Big Train season sponsor, and twice over the last 10 years have stepped up to make multi-year financial investments for us to be able to improve and the Povich Field scoreboard. So we want to welcome Dr. Kamala Dio and Kimberly Zarin and Sandy, our friend, who is the person who always comes through with the check and makes things happen. So we support them all. And here is the award. And let's get a picture for Joy, with Joy. Right here. Let's get Sandy in. We good? So let me, I'm going to give you the mic for just a couple of few words. You're up, Sandy. Thank you.
Johns Hopkins Community Physicians is really proud to be a sponsor of the Big Train, and go Big Train. Thank you.
And she's helped with Big Train Go, so thank you so much to Johns Hopkins. We appreciate it. I'm going to ask Councilmember Albernas to come up. And Mike Riley to come up. So Mike has served as the director of Montgomery Park since 2014. He is a highly regarded as an innovative problem solver, sensitive to community interest. He's the model guy you want running a park system. And I'm personally grateful to Mike for being such a strong supporter of Shirley Povich Field all these years, because as he has worked his way up the parks bureaucracy to the top job, he was always the guy I went to and said, help, you know, I need some help, I got to get this done. He was the guy. Hey, you know what, Andrew, you and Mark should get in this picture too. I'm only going to give the mic to Gabe, but you guys should get in this picture. And Mark, I'm going to get an autographed copy of this from Mike if you support that bond bill for the new irrigation system here at Povich Field. I won't ask you to do that right now.
Who said you were a hard guy to say no to?
So Mike really gets it. He understands the value of partnerships. He realizes what nonprofits like ours can do. I'm so grateful. I'm particularly grateful too because you're here today because I was able to say to my board members, we got the landlord coming. We're going to make this place look sharp. And I think we got 100 hours of volunteer work out of my board members. We were power washing and raking and weeding like crazy. I'm going to hand it first to Gabe and then make a presentation to Mike.
Great. Well, hello everybody. I am Gabe Albanaz, our County Council President. What an honor and privilege to be here today. Prior to serving on the council for 12 years, I had the privilege of serving as the director of the Recreation Department. And there were some weeks where I spoke to Mike more often than my own wife because of the connection between both agencies. But as Bruce mentioned, you are not going to find a more humble, a more dedicated, and a more enthusiastic leader of a county agency. And in fact, people don't know this, but every 4 years, the county issues a county survey. And guess which department agency always comes out on top every 4 years? It's our Parks Department. And that's due in no small part to Mike's leadership and that of his extraordinary team. So I can't think of a better person to acknowledge than Mike. And on behalf of the entire council, and more importantly, our entire community, thank you, Mike, for your dedication in public service.
Thank you, Gabe. All right, let's go. We're going to do a photo for Joy. Guys, get in. Joy, you got it? Okay, we got it. Gabe, give the mic to... There you go. Thank you so much.
Wow. Well, first of all, everybody, please say hi to my wife, Joy, in the front row here. The recurring theme, I learned at a young age, a really good thing, you do not say no to Bruce. It's just futile. And when Bruce called me a year or two ago and said, I've got this idea about these bronze statues, Walter, I just said, yes, Bruce, whatever you need, whatever you want, we'll get it done.
He did.
And I do that because Bruce delivers such great things when he gets a vision and a passion about something. He delivers great things. I was privileged as a young engineer to work with him on this stadium when it was first built, and it's such a gem in our park system. When we say gems, we think of Brookside Gardens, Capitol Crescent Trail, Povich Fields. They're the big things we have, so a big, huge thank you to Bruce and the Big Train for delivering this community asset in our park system.
Thank you, Mike. That is Rich Company, Brookside Gardens and the Capitol Crescent Trail. Mike, here is your award. All right, Sal. Your turn. All right. Now we're going to hear from the man who produces 2 decades of Big Train winning, our Hall of Fame manager, Sal Colangelo. Hey, Sal, I almost fell out of my chair a few weeks ago when I was scrolling through the lineup of the Major League Baseball games, and I realized that 3 of our alumni were starting pitchers all on the same night. Wow, that was incredible. So we just put up, for those of you who don't know that sign there, we just put up 4 new names. We now have 21 former Big Train players who have made it to the major leagues. Thanks to Sal and everybody. Incredible achievement, Sal.
Obviously, a lot of this can't happen without everyone inside the Davis Pavilion. 23 or 24 years ago, we started this journey. And the other day, I went to my first World Series ever, and a no-hitter in Philly. And when I got there, I realized why I do what I do, and why the coaches, Coach Lopez and Coach G over there, do what we do. It's what Hunter Brown's dad did when he saw me at the stadium. I went up to him, shook his hand, and he says, Coach Sal, I don't need to shake your hand, I need a hug. And I look at him, and he's just crying. And I'm going, did I do something wrong? And he was so happy because Hunter Brown was a high school baseball player that no one gave him a chance. Hunter Brown was a college baseball player that no one gave him a chance. When I recruited him based on one of the most important values was his character. And when he came from Wayne State to play for us that summer, he worked with our pitching staff and worked with the team. He was 87, 88, and left out of here at 92, 93 miles an hour because he wanted to emulate Justin Verlander. And that's a true story, and Tim can probably attest to that as well. And he worked and he worked and worked, and he made himself into who he is today. So I went to the World Series, great experience. I go out to center field to try to say hi to him. I'm walking down. He sees me first, and he says, hey, Coach, how you doing? Thank you. I appreciate all you've done. And I said, hey, I appreciate you. And he threw me a World Series ball. And, of course, parents are offering me $100, $200. I said, I think I'll keep this one. So that is why we do. That is the why. That is why we do what we do. And it's the community of Bethesda. I lived up the street here my early years. It just means a lot to me. The brand is nationwide, and it's because of everyone inside this pavilion. I'm excited about the summer coming up, 2023. The team is put together. We're going to be very good. Hopefully we can stay healthy. Last summer we lost 5 of our top 6 hitters. A week before the season was out, we're down to 9 position players over the tournament. We would have had a little better results, but nonetheless, the coaches coach, the players play, and we did a great thing for the community. So thank you from bottom of my heart for everybody. Bruce, happy birthday, and to my coaches and Eric and everyone here. And I always say this: where's she at? Peggy, where's Peggy?
With her granddaughter.
Thank you, Peggy, for all that you do and supporting Bruce and everything you've done for me. Thank you.
All right, let's hear it for Sal. Thank you. And Sal, can you introduce your coaches?
Coach G, Calvin, back there, waving by
Coach G,
Brian.
let's hear it for Coach G. Who won this award?
Coach Lopez, our pitching coach, back there. Thanks, Coach.
The other is a new friend. I came up to Janet Marie Smith at the site of Memorial Stadium at a Sabre tour of former Baltimore Big Train fields, and I said, you know, you're my hero, could I have your card? And she nicely gave me a card, and now she is here, and I am so excited to have her here. As a certified, my wife would say certifiable, baseball road tripper and ballpark junkie, I couldn't over the heads.
Okay.
Are we good? All right. So I want to start with Tim Kurkjian. Tim, so the playoffs to me, they seem like It was a Washington Nationals Baltimore Orioles alumni game. Bryce Harper, Schwarber, Machado, Turner, Scherzer, Soto, Bell, Mancini, Mike Maddox, Dusty Baker. Well, what is a local baseball fan to think seeing all those players that we watched and loved playing for other teams?
Well, it's a little difficult, I understand, but it's a little less difficult because the Nationals won the World Series in 2019, and the Orioles are on the way back, as we saw from this year, and trust me, the Nationals got some really good young players in those deals, so they're on their way back, and let's not forget, the Astros lost Garrett Cole, they lost Carlos Correa, they lost George Springer, and they won the World Series this year, so you can come back very quickly in the sport. And that's what I hope happens around here.
Well, maybe that's the answer to my next question, because I saw the Phillies twice at the end of May. They were beaten by the Mets at Citi Field, and then they lost to the Giants on Memorial Day at their ballpark. Lost both games. The atmosphere in New York was electric. It was exciting. It was fun. I felt like I was in a morgue. At the Phillies at Citizens Bank Park. It was stodgy, it was quiet. I returned to Philadelphia on October 15th, the day they eliminated the Braves. And I'm not going to tell you that it was like an English Premier Football League atmosphere. It wasn't that good, but it was a lot of fun. So how do you turn something around that quick?
Well, a couple things happened. They got a new manager, Rob Thompson, who's 59 years old. He's Canadian. He's never managed in the major leagues before, and they love this guy, and they play so hard for him. Kyle Schwarber told me if anyone on the other team ever tries to do anything to our manager, 25 guys would jump over the bullpen rail and go kill that guy. That's how much they love Rob Thompson. But more important than that, this became a really tough, fearless, resilient team. And it was all mostly because of the manager, but Bryce Harper leading the way. It was like watching a college baseball team, the Phillies, and that crowd was like no outdoor crowd at a baseball game that I've seen in a really long time.
That was cool.
And by the way, Coach went to the no-hitter. I, of course, was there. My buddy, this is the beauty of baseball, my buddy, a former editor at ESPN, he brought his wife. His wife has now been to 10 Major League games. She's been to 2 Phillies games in her life, and both times the Phillies got no hit. Some people can go their whole lives and not be in a no-hitter. She's been to 10 games and she's seen 2 no-hitters. She's seen the Phillies twice, and they've never gotten a hit in games.
Wow. So this is a question I'm not sure how I feel about it, but the 106-win Astros, they win the championship. Great. But the 89-win Padres knock out the 101-win Mets and the 111-win Dodgers, and the 87-win Phillies dispatch the 101-win Braves. So did MLB include too many teams in the playoffs and fail to reward adequately the people who go through the full season? Or is it, as J.J. Cooper said, embrace the chaos?
Yes, you definitely embraced the chaos. It was a tremendous postseason, one of the best I've ever seen. And it speaks again to how great baseball is. These upsets, or whatever you want to call them, can't happen in the other sports. When Michael Jordan was in his prime and the Wizards would go play the Bulls in the playoffs, they had no chance to win, no chance. But here, the Phillies, who are essentially the 12th seed in the playoffs, went to the World Series. It can only happen like this in baseball, that 3 100-win teams got knocked out before we even got to the league championship series. That's the ultimate beauty of the game. When the Warriors have their best players, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, playing their best, you're not going to beat them because they touch the ball on every possession. It doesn't work that way in baseball, and that's its ultimate beauty, is every night you go to the park, you might see something you've never seen before.
All right. Thank you, Tim. So we are, as I said earlier, grateful that you come every summer, you talk to the players, and what Tim says to the players is, you guys have done something really hard. You have made it to the major leagues. You are elite college players, and we are really proud of those 21 guys up on that sign who have made it to the major leagues. But to me, the most fascinating moment of the World Series was in Game 3 when Bryce Harper hits the home run, and then he summons his buddy over and has a little conversation with the guy in the on-deck circle. And in the next inning, that guy hits a home run. Are these guys that good? And what was going on? And if you're Dusty Baker and you see or hear about that conversation, what were you thinking? What could you do?
Well, there's nothing you can do, and to me, this is great gamesmanship, is that they spotted something in the delivery, and they said, let's pass the information along. Not only is that not cheating, it is encouraged to do that. That is great gamesmanship. That is your job to say, look, he's tipping his pitches. I work with Eduardo Perez. I've worked with him for years. It's unbelievable, the stuff that he can see in a pitcher's delivery. And then it's your job to go tell everyone, when he carries his glove here, he's throwing a changeup. When it's up here, literally 2 inches higher, it's a curveball. And these guys can see that, and it is their responsibility to pass it along. I think there was some of that going on, and I applaud it, because that's the way the game is supposed to be played.
And on a more somber note here, it's the 75th anniversary of Jackie Robinson in the major leagues, and there was not a single U.S.-born black on either roster of the World Series for the first time since 1950. What do we make of that? People are trying. Why are they not succeeding? What can we do?
They really are trying, but this is a bad situation that baseball is in. You know, in the late 70s, when I started covering, 27% of the players were African American. Now we're down to 8, and it's dropping. And I'm worried about it. We're all worried about it. Part of the problem is baseball, sorry, to a lot of people, is not a really fun, active sport to watch. When you have a chance to go play basketball or football, and you get a chance to get paid immediately, that's where you're going to go. But the Aaron Judges of the world and African American are showing people that baseball is the best game, and this is the game you should choose. He's doing tremendous good for the game. He could have played basketball, he could have played football. Instead, he chose baseball, and let's hope this starts to work. We've got a long way to go. There's no quick answer to this, but we need more African Americans in the game, period.
So what are the top stories we should be watching for 2023? Who are the breakout players? What's going to happen with banning the defensive shift? Where's Aaron Judge going to be?
Well, I wish I knew where Aaron Judge was going to be. And I will tell you every day, the answer is, I don't know where he's going. I'll take a guess for today, and then the story changes tomorrow. This is how it always works. The big story for 2023 is going to be the rule changes. And I'm the last guy that wants anything changed. I'm 65 years old. I think the game is beautiful as it is, but it's time to make a change. It's time to bring in a pitch clock and see if we can speed up the game. And it is time, and I'm the last guy to figure this out, to do something about the shift. What they're going to do next year is the right idea. All 4 infielders, 2 of them have to start on each side of second base, and all 8 feet have to be in on the infield dirt when the play begins. Quickly, here's how it works. Let's just take Joey Gallo, big left-handed hitter. He walks to the plate right now, and he sees 4 guys lined up on the right side, and he says, well, I can't hit it through there. They're all over the place. So I have to hit it over the shift. So what he does, like so many others, is he tries to get the ball up in the air. That's where all the strikeouts come from. That's where all the walks come from. That's where all the home runs come from. We have too many of those, and not enough in between. Maybe if Joey Gallo goes to the plate and sees, if I hit a hard ground ball up the middle, I can get a hit. If I hit a hard ground ball between the first and second baseman, I can get a hit. So that's the big story of next year. How are these things going to go? I'm not positive, but I am willing to take a look at this. The greatest game that's ever been invented is not as good as it should be, because we no longer value the hit. We only value a home run.
So Tim, as you know, we were all so thrilled that you got the Baseball Writers Career Excellence Award. So you're enshrined in Cooperstown with Shirley Colbert, Shirley Colbert, Randall Rice, Wendell Smith, Peter Gammons, Roger Angel. What did that mean to you? What was that weekend like?
Wait a minute, first, can we have some applause?
Well, that was the most overwhelming, overpowering weekend experience of my professional life, and there's not a close second. And let me just tell you a couple of quick stories. So on Sunday, the day of the real induction, where the players get inducted, I'm sitting on a bus, and we're going from the hotel over to the site. And there's one seat left open on the bus, and it's next to me. And this regal, elegant gentleman comes up to me and says, "Could I sit next to you?" And it was Sandy Koufax. So I got 15 minutes talking to Sandy Koufax. I met him before, I know him well, but still, 15 minutes with Sandy was pretty darn cool. But if I may, the coolest part was after I spoke on Saturday and I was honored by the Hall of Fame, I come back to the hotel and Johnny Bench, the greatest catcher of all time, says to me, he says, "Come with me." He takes me out to the veranda at the Otesaga Hotel, which overlooks the most beautiful lake you've ever seen in your life. And he says, "Come with me." We're the only two people out on the veranda. And he said, "I want you to sit in this chair. I want you to look at that lake. I don't want you to say a word. I want you to look at the lake and remember where you are, how you got here, and how many people helped you get here." And I looked at that lake with the greatest catcher of all time sitting right next to me. And for one of many times that weekend, I just burst into tears. This is what Johnny Bench does for all the first-time players who go in. This time, he did it for a school charter. I can't even begin to tell you what that meant to me.
What a fabulous weekend. So Tim, before I turn the conversation over to Jenna Marie, I would like your thoughts on her work and what it has meant to baseball.
Well, Jenna Marie is an all-time great at this. I'll never forget when the Sky Dome opened in 1989. I was covering the Orioles, and I'm standing on the field. The place has only been open for like 3 days. And Larry Lucchino, who of course Jenna Marie worked with forever, looks at me and he says, back in Baltimore, we're building this quaint little ballpark. And here in Toronto, they built the 8th wonder of the world. And ultimately, he was right about Toronto. What he wasn't completely right about is that quaint little ballpark in Baltimore ended up changing the landscape of stadiums in the country today. To me, Camden Yards is still the best of all the new ballparks. So when I say new, I mean the last 30 to 40 years. It has set the standard. Pittsburgh, San Francisco, Seattle, all pretty much copied what Jenna Marie and everyone else did in Baltimore. It is my favorite ballpark to watch a game. The right field wall, the warehouse, after the wall at Fenway Park is the most recognizable single part of any ballpark in America. I have covered a major league game in 59 different major league stadiums, and I'm telling you, there's nothing better than Camden Yards, and Jenna Marie had so much to do with it.
Thank you, Tim. So, Jenna Marie, you have now heard the living, breathing baseball encyclopedia known as Tim Kurkjian talk about the monumental impact of your work, what they call the ballpark that forever changed baseball. So, in my mind, in the minds probably of some others, you're right there with Madison, the man who principles of government forever changed democracy. So I know you're a humble, modest person, but how do you process people like Tim Kurkjian telling you how great you are?
It's the ballpark that's great, and I do love that. And I think Larry Lucchino was spot on as the president and CEO of the Orioles. He always said, we're just trying to build the best ballpark we can for Baltimore. So we weren't setting out to change the world, and maybe that's the difference, because I think what makes baseball so special is that it resonates with its community. Every park really is or should be a reflection of its immediate surroundings, not just physical, but the culture and the traditions and the habits, the food. This is a perfect example. And because we were so focused on doing the right thing for Baltimore, it ended up being emulated across the country. And maybe the thing we're most proud of isn't just that people went back to slat chairs or scoreboards with clocks on them, but rather that baseball moved back into the city and became an urban sport again. And somewhere in there, there's a connection to your comment about African Americans playing baseball again, because it should be an urban sport and it should be where everyone can enjoy it, and it be the mixing ground that I think we think of a ballpark as being.
So I want to know how growing up in Jackson, Mississippi in the 60s and 70s prepared you to become an icon in the male-dominated world of professional baseball. And by the way, I do want to say that if you look over your shoulder at the Cal Ripken Collegiate Baseball League Hall of Fame, there are 2 Mississippi State products up there, so we'll hail state here. But what are the steps along the way that helped you build the skills and the grit to have the impact you've had?
Well, that is one tough question for a quick sound bite. I don't do sound bites very well. But growing up in Mississippi was what leaves you with many stories to tell. But I think the 2 I would just settle on is I went to public schools throughout, all the way through my master's degree actually, from public schools. And I think that really changed the way I looked at the world, because I didn't live in a little bubble. I lived in a bigger environment. And I think that's just so important to understand people who aren't like you and to be in a broader world. And when I got to Mississippi State and had to check a box, I checked architecture, not because I really had this dying, dream to go design, but because I love cities. But then I traveled enough to get a sense of cities, and I just felt that it was the closest thing to planning that was there. And the fact that the architecture school is way off on the edge of campus next to the baseball field might have had something to do with baseball and sort of my thinking about how it fit with cities later in life. But it was a great pastime for me. And by the time I moved to New York, Jackson had a AA team, which is where I'm from, Jackson, at the Mets. And so even though I wasn't around to watch them, somehow that seared in my mind how all of those great players came through.
So at the macro level, the Orioles president, Larry Lucchino, obviously deserves credit for insisting on a ballpark, not a stadium. But you're the one who made it happen. And I know this is kind of geeky, I apologize, but I'm fascinated by your story about the battles with the Maryland Stadium Authority over steel trusses versus concrete. Could you give us a short version of why that's incredibly important?
It is geeky, I think.
But it is fundamental.
It is fundamental, and I think it's interesting that we never look back. But if you look at the older ballparks and you try to dissect those and say, what made them special? Why do we remember Ebbets and Tiger Field and Old Comiskey, and of course Fenway and Wrigley are still around, but why do we remember those parks and revere them? Because most of us probably never knew them. But there's something about how magical they seem, from the small amount of foul territory, the asymmetrical outfield, fans surrounding the ballpark, and they were steel structures. And there's something about the lattice-like work of steel that has a lightness to it and it just feels more approachable, more personable than these big hulking concrete things that came later with the multi-purpose park era. So all of those round parks, from Pittsburgh to Atlanta to Cincinnati, were all big concrete donuts. And so I think the departure back to something that could accept a coat of paint, so you could choose a color, and not just the post and beam system, but the trusses, really was important. And the state didn't say no to that casually. They appreciated the design aesthetic of it, and certainly HOK Sport and their structural engineers appreciated it, but the state felt that it was going to cost more money. And without getting into all the battles, but I'll go through that sometime. At the end of the day, the Orioles agreed to share the cost of repainting the steel with the Stadium Authority every 7 years, and therein lies the compromise that allowed it to go forward.
So you broke all the rules, and after you finished, all the rules changed. All the ballparks before you were concrete, and now all the ballparks after are these steel trusses. Is that correct?
That is, I think every single one has been steel trusses ever since. Not all painted dark green, like I said, you can choose your own color of paint, but it is sort of nice how that. Plus, there's sort of the efficiency and economy of scale, which is why we'll save the geeky stuff till later.
So after Camden Yards, you went to Atlanta, then Boston, then LA. So you've touched so much. You created the new urbanism ballpark in Camden Yards. You renovated and restored the classic era ballpark, Fenway Park, and the mid-century modern Dodger Stadium. These are 3 different styles across 8 decades. How do you weren't here all 8 decades. How do you approach such different challenges in such different places? And if you could give some examples about the importance of attention to detail, what are the major lessons you learned as you've been across America and made baseball so much better?
Well, I'd sort of back to what I said a moment ago. You have to listen to your community, whatever that is, whether it's the buildings or whether it's the people, but listen to that. And I think really thinking about those places pays off. And you don't go to Boston, I don't care how many parks you've worked on, you're not the expert. You're not going to walk into Fenway Park and tell someone who's been a lifelong Red Sox fan what to do, but you can listen. And you can listen to them, you can listen to the building, and certainly the reference points of what is going on, in not just in baseball, but in other sports, has changed, and our expectations of how to spend our time inside of those gated ballparks has changed. So I think what I've enjoyed about the differences in not just the architecture of a Fenway Park in New England or the mid-century modern and those crazy colors in Los Angeles, and I was delighted to see an LA Dodgers fan over there, is that they are of their time. And I think that's what makes baseball so special. I often worry, to your point about these other parks and how you don't want it to become a formula. You really don't want it to be a formula. And I think the best parks are the ones that are a reflection of their cities. Pittsburgh's defined by its position on the river. San Francisco's defined by its position on the bay, the outfield dimension and the way the ball travels over the wall. Petco Park has a park as part of it. So I think all of those things are really an important part of thinking about how you approach this problem.
So I was taught in law school not to ask a question I didn't know the answer to, but I didn't like law school. So of course I have to ask this question. What your thoughts on the change of left field in Camden Yards? It appears to be the result of an extraordinarily competent baseball analytics team. What's your view of it aesthetically?
Well, I was taught not to answer questions, but I felt like I should. I think about Frank Robinson every time I go to that park because Frank puts so much thought into the dimensions of the playing field. In many ways, he was our unsung hero. Larry Lucchino properly gets the headline credit for having thumped this idea up of this old-fashioned ballpark with modern amenities. But Frank was able not only to carry the idea with credibility because he was Frank Robinson, but he just cared so much about it. And think about it, he had uniquely played in these older parks. So he knew what it was like to have a small amount of territory in an asymmetrical field and fans breathing right down the outfielder's shoulder. And what Frank cared about as it pertains to the left field wall was that fans would be low and close to the playing field. And kind of forgotten in all this discussion is that we built Camden Yards, or designed it rather, against the backdrop of these multi-purpose stadiums and a goal of baseball at the time to do a uniform outfield with 8-foot walls. So all these round parks had not only symmetry to them, but 8-foot walls. Memorial Stadium had a 7-foot wall. And Oriole fans had grown accustomed to the excitement of a home run being pulled over the wall. So when we were working with HOK on the design of Camden Yards, we sent Bob Elward, our VP of Business, to New York to talk to the commissioner's office about us being able to bring our 7-foot dimension downtown. And it was about the play. But Frank also made such a persuasive case for the home field advantage of fans really knowing the park as well as the player did. So when I look at that wall, what I miss the most is what Frank cared about the most, which was the players being close to the action, because they're now pulled up and away.
Thank you. And what's the next big challenge for you? What are you going to make fabulous for us next?
I don't have any idea. I really don't have any idea. I don't even know what I want to do next. Sometimes I look at the few round parks that are left and think about them sort of like the dinosaur. You know, don't we wish there was one dinosaur left? And so I can't help but wonder, like, is there some round park somewhere worth saving so we can remember what it's like, have all that foul territory? And I don't give a tour of Dodger Stadium, but I don't point out the original wall. And I every time I speak to Oral Hershiser, I feel like we should be talking about this. Like, we should be talking about the loss of this foul territory and how it changes the way a pitcher approaches the game. So, no, I don't know what I'm going to do next. I will say I have enjoyed my small projects as much as my big ones, though. I think the Major League buildings always get the headline, but I've really enjoyed the few minor league spring training and Dominican projects I've worked on too, because working at that scale is really just sweet.
As an Orioles fan, thank you for Sarasota. I had been to that ballpark. There we go. We got a lot of clapping. I've been to that ballpark before, and how magnificent the job he did. Jen Reed, Tim, thank you so much. Can we hear it for them for being here and for all you've done to lift up the game that we love. So I want to thank our general manager, Michael, wherever Michael is. Let's have applaud for Michael, for where he is in the back, organizing this for us. I want to thank everybody for being here. This is the annual event. This is how we raise the money for our community service initiatives. Please go online and bid like crazy in our auction. You see some of the items over there. The online auction ends on Tuesday at 10 o'clock. We'll have a second edition of this and a second auction December 11th on bigtrain.tv. In addition to the auction items, our Big Train hoodie is a perfect holiday present. You could get a certificate for camp for one of your kids as a present. I've asked you to please finish off the cakes and the pumpkin pie and the ice cream. I had enough pumpkin pie this last month. Thank you again to Brewster's for keeping us cool on this warm afternoon. And we do have a goodie bag for everybody. Patrick, we do have a goodie bag. We do have a goodie bag for everyone. My wife, Peggy? Well, yeah, I'll tell you a story about Peggy. So we spent 100 hours out here cleaning this place up. Mike, it was my wife Peggy who turned these 4 trash cans that absolutely stink after a full summer and went down to the inside bottom of them and cleaned them out. Let's hear it for Peggy. I'm going to hear it for telling that story. Linda's Fit Right Orthodontics gave us some fabulous recyclable bags, and so you're each getting one of those. Our friend Seth Goldman of Honest Tea fame, now with Just Iced Tea, you're getting a bottle of that in your bag. So please get your goodie bag. Thank you everybody for being here. Put Sunday, December 11th on your bigtrain.tv on your calendar. Thank you everyone.